Well, let's start with a bit of injury team news. Any more on what's going on with Cal, or how serious that one is?
He'll be maybe 10 days, something like that.
So
It's not as serious as we initially thought. So that's good news for us.
yeah, that definitely is a positive. It does leave you short for the next 10
Yeah,
days,
it does.
I guess.
But Tim's trained, and so he's will probably be in the squad for the weekend, which is good news for us. So yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, and with centre backs, there's obviously less running than if you're playing centre midfield, but it's kind of
Depends who you're playing against.
Well, yeah, that is true. Would that be a concern if you felt you wanted to throw him in at the deep end?
Well, we threw him in the deep end when he signed for us at Preston, and Tim's experienced, so hopefully he'll play some part. But I thought Andy King did very well. So we'll find a way of making sure that we are solid at the back. Let's put it like that.
And I thought Andy King showed the value of that experience because he hasn't had a lot of game time, but he stepped in 2 different positions and it didn't look out of place at all.
No, he's at the stage of his career where he understands exactly what his strengths are, and he's on the coaching staff, so it's good to get a member of the coaching staff on the pitch as well. It's players bring different things to the team, and so I think for Andy King in particular, playing in a role there, especially in a 3, is something which he's very capable of dealing with. So that's a real benefit for us.
And obviously, you sort of lose one to suspension and get another one back. That sort of disruption is not ideal for a coach, is it?
It doesn't bother me. I mean, they're both good players, and so it would have been nice to have everybody available. So if decisions need to be made, but Alex Scott coming back in is a real positive for the squad. So it's nice to have players with those types of qualities available. And Joe misses out now for 1 game, so we'll see how that develops. But no, it's with the amount of games that we've got as well. There will be a need, I think, at times to freshen things up. But for the most part, this season so far, we've had a relatively settled side, which has been beneficial too. So we'll just deal with it. Thomas Callas, I did promise that I'd keep you updated, so I may as well preempt your question and say that he should be training within 10 days, which is really good news for us and for him too. His levels of general fitness are very, very good too. He's even smiling these days, which is quite disconcerting. But no. So it looks like we'll get players. You miss out on certain players. It's inevitable that you'll get some injuries. We work very hard to avoid unnecessary ones, certainly in training. But in games, you're not in control of that. So we'll pick injuries up from time to time. It's just important that we try and minimise that and get as many players available as possible.
That was something I was going to come to, because it's always going to be frustrating with injuries. But given the sort of situation you inherited and the situation where there were almost more people in the trainer's room than there were in the changing room, that has definitely changed. That sort of dynamic of having more people available more often is better now than it has been.
Yes, but that takes a lot of hard work, and it takes hard work from not just the medical staff, sports science. The coaches need to be on side. Coaches generally create more mess in terms of creating injuries than anybody else, and so it's important that coaches accept the responsibility, their responsibility in keeping players fit. So it's not just about the medical team, and of course on top of that, it's also education for the players, and then the most important thing is recruiting players who have a history of playing, rather than signing players who are a medical risk, and that's something which is, that's what we have to get right over a sustained period of time. And I think it's nice that you notice it, but it's something that doesn't happen overnight. You can't change. That's a part of the culture change, and you can't change that overnight. And during, especially a championship season, the chances to get physical adaptations for players that are playing every game, you can't. You don't get very many opportunities. So international breaks, and of course this season with players who have maybe been out for a while, the World Cup break will be an important one for a few individuals to sort of fine-tune a bit more.
Kane Wilson wasn't involved in the squad on Tuesday night. Was that an injury issue or a selection issue?
No, he's got a knee injury that he'll have scanned, and then we'll assess how that is. But hopefully it won't be too long. It's probably something that a grumble that's been there for a while, and a bit like Tim. So we'll see how that one is.
Okay, and I thought Tuesday was. It wasn't the free-flowing football that you've been playing for much of this season, but I thought it showed the improvement you've made maybe from this time last year, where it wasn't quite clicking, but you still looked relatively solid, certainly more so than you would have done maybe this time last year.
Well, yeah, maybe, but I think we played some really good stuff, and we created some promising attacking moments that didn't really bear fruit, if you like. So, but you've got to give them some credit. I think they were very they defended their box very, very well. I keep saying it, but the Championship is full of teams that are very hard to beat.
And you face another one at the other weekend who haven't got the greatest of starts, but you look through the team and then there's a lot of quality in there.
Yeah, they've got some good players. A manager who is, I've come across him a few times. He's going to be a real, I think, a very successful coach manager. I think he's very inventive. He's got Keith working with him too, so it'd be nice to see Keith again. And Keith's a really good coach too. So yeah, they'll be working hard to get the best out of the players that they have. And it's a game. Look, we go there trying to win it.
And given the sort of last two games, teams have sort of sat in against you and made it sort of trying to be difficult to break them down. Is it a different puzzle that you have to solve when you go to somewhere that the onus is on the home team?
It depends. I would imagine they'll play off Troy quite a bit. He's a very experienced player, a good target man. I worked with him at Watford. He's a big personality too. So they'll be. I think when we played them last year, they sort of bullied us a little bit there, and we didn't really deal with it in an effective way. So it's a challenge for us to see whether we can deal with that sort of a threat this time around. But I think we are playing better as well. I think they'll be aware that we've got players who can hurt them. What we have to do in these tight games, you see, is your conversion rate's got to be good, and it has been, generally speaking, this season for us. When we've created chances, we've generally made the goalkeeper work, or we've taken advantage of chances. So you can't expect your strikers to go through a whole season with converting every chance that they get, or near enough. That's why it's important that we get goals from throughout the side, and we still don't score enough goals from midfield, and we don't score enough goals from set plays. I mean, we had 9 corners, and I think we only got the first contact 3 times. So with some of the players that we've got, I would expect that to be better.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Last season was quite a difficult evening in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was rotten.
Yeah. What difference do you see in the team now? Not necessarily in how you're playing, but maybe the mentality from 12 months on, when you mentioned about getting bullied.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, we've just been in a difficult run of losing three games, which, yeah, I mean, whether we deserved it or not, it doesn't matter. We lost 3 games on the trot, and dealt with a tight game, I think, pretty well the other night. So we'll have to wait and see, won't we? I just think that there is a stronger collective mentality. I think there are going to be players playing on Saturday who played in the game last year, who have made improvements themselves, not just and I don't mean technically here. I mean being able to deal with either pressure or deal with whatever the game throws at them. Most of the time when you talk about, or we talk internally about performances and players, it's very rare that we talk about technical issues, and it's more to do with whether players are able to deal with the I suppose psychological pressures, or their own demons, if you like. I don't know whether that's the right way to put it, but I think at least there is. The group have been together for a bit longer now. We've added players in the summer who I think have certainly strengthened the squad, but also they fit in as personalities too. And I think that's very important, that how we recruit here on in is always going to... I mean, recruitment's the most important aspect of football. And you might have good coaches, but it's about the players that you've got. And certainly when you are shopping in a limited market that everybody else is shopping in, because of the circumstances that football finds itself in these days, we've got to make sure that we get that right. And fortunately for us, the players that we've added to the squad, I think, have been really good. The challenge is to get it right. We can ill afford to sign a duff player.
And how do you get a process to limit the chance of that happening?
You've got to do it's like doing anything. It's doing your homework on the people that you sign. You've got to have an idea of the type of player that you want. And we've got to be proactive. So there's a lot of pressure on the recruitment department to get it right.
And that's obviously going to be the case in January?
It's going to be the case here on in, hopefully, for the football club. Hopefully, after I'm long gone, the club need to continue to have policies in place which protect the football club, rather than some of the policies that have gone before. But look, we're not talking about that now. It's just about how we move forward, and we move forward by trying to recruit the right players for this club, and ones which, when they do come in, improve the team.
How deep does the homework go? Obviously, statistically.
Listen, this is a press conference about I don't know, it's my fault for talking about it.
Is there a personal homework that you do?
Of course there is.
Attitudes, and how does that?
Absolutely. That's massive. Yeah.
And do some clubs overlook that, do you think?
I don't know. I can't talk about what happens elsewhere. All I know is that to minimise the risk of signing a player that's not either good enough or good value you've got to do. I think the givens are, the player's good enough technically or physically able to deal with it. You should know that. All you have to do is look at players' playing records to know to know whether they're going to play games or not, or whether they've just been a player that never plays. That's basic. In terms of character, yeah, I mean, all the players that we've signed in the summer, the only time I ever get involved is when I meet them. And that's, for me, that's very, very important to get an idea of whether they are having themselves or whether they're the right sorts.
Have you turned down players then, having met them and then not seen them?
What are you talking about here or in the past? Or
Possibly here, but just...
everywhere, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Because one of your predecessors, I remember Gary Johnson always used to say he'd have an hour-long cup of tea with a player and then...
I can't. I don't want to spend that long with them.
Because you know when you know, you know.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people I've worked with in the past, you gain experience as you go through your career. And remember one of my old coaches who sadly died last year, Richie Barker, he said to me, if they play golf, I like to take them for a game of golf. I mean, I wouldn't do that. I'm not spending 4 hours with somebody.
Just on Cal, obviously he's brought a lot to the team,
yeah,
especially on the ball in terms of what he does bringing out defence. I know there's been debate around that, but now he's not going to be in the team on Saturday. Does that role fall on someone else, or do you have to adapt accordingly? You don't have do you get? I mean, Rob would be the obvious one, but do you tell
who would be?
Rob Atkinson would be the obvious one to sort of fill that role, or do you
no.
just sort of you don't?
Rob Atkinson wouldn't be the person to fill that role. Rob's an introvert. Rob's a quiet person.
Yeah, more in terms of ability to bring it through, to break lines with the ball at their feet, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Rob's more of a dribbler, isn't he? Let's be honest. And he does that anyway, which is really good. It's a ability which is it's a really good one to have within sort of our central defensive unit, but I look at it more from an organisational side of it and more a leadership role, and I think that would fall, obviously, Andy King assumed that role the other night in terms of breaking lines. I mean, it's Cal is pretty exceptional at that, and I know we've conceded goals sometimes from doing that, but the benefits far outweigh the risks that we take. And look, I want the players to play with a positive mentality, and they want to play like that too. So I can't give you the answer to that. We've just got to collectively make sure that first and foremost we have an effective defensive unit, and that includes the wing backs too, even though we do like to be attacking as much as possible, but it depends on the challenges that your opponents give you to a large extent, and we try and play our own way, but sometimes opponents will dominate in games, and you've got to be able to deal with it. So we certainly need to keep more clean sheets, there's no doubt about that, but whoever plays at the weekend will need to step up for the team.
You mentioned it very briefly on Tuesday about back four being an option.
Yeah.
Is that on the table still?
No, not really. But I'll say it again so that Birmingham think it might be.
Okay, so...
So our players aren't sure at the moment.
And not wanting to second guess the selection, but in terms of Naki and Antoine playing together, I think we saw on Tuesday when Tommy came on the
you'll have to wait and see, won't you?
No, but I was going to say, how with Antoine and Naki, how do you build that chemistry? How do they build that chemistry? Are there specific things you can do on a training ground that help build
Yeah, I mean,
Understand
one of the things that we didn't do well enough the other night was the front two didn't really play close enough to each other. And so, when people talk about it being a front three, with Andy playing a bit deeper, Andy's a part of the midfield unit sometimes defensively when he has different roles to fill or obligations to the team at certain moments in the game. But really, I like the front two to play as a pair, and Andy then makes his decision based on what the others aren't doing. And that's really the basis. I thought at times the other night, we weren't, it wasn't an obvious two. And I think what you see with Tommy is he attacks the middle of the goal particularly well, which is why his first touch is a header on target. But hey, what a fantastic problem to have. If it's a problem, I don't see it as a problem. I think it's really good for us that we have players with that amount of ability and a diversity of what they bring to the team too. It's great, and then add in Belly too, because he's on fire at the minute, which is great because he's had a bit of a difficult sort of few months, or probably a season of not misfiring because he made his debut early days when I was here, and he got injured after 10 minutes. So he's had one of those starts to his first team experience that's probably not as positive as some other players have, but he's in a really good place now. His game's developed enormously, and I think that comes through us as a club being on the same page. So when our players turn out for the under 21s, it's not seen as being a step down. It's players use it for themselves to get themselves fit, and we genuinely believe that we've got players coming through our system that will hopefully keep pushing the first team. So that's good.
Do you see him as a central striker?
Who? Belly?
Yeah.
Poor, not half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's tended to be a bit wider.
Yeah, but we have played 4-3-3 quite a lot, and in that system, he's a good wide striker. But in all honesty, his strength will be as one of the front two.
Okay. Just finally on Birmingham.
Because he can run for fun.
Yeah. You mentioned about players who are in the game. Last season, we also talked about Troy Deeney.
Yeah.
How important. Zach has been very good of late.
Yeah.
I think Zach had quite a difficult night last
he did.
year. In terms of him playing against a striker like Troy Deeney, what's he going to have to do to stop him being so influential?
Not let him feel him.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Troy likes to pin people.
Yeah.
So he wants to know where you are. So you've got to avoid that.
How do you do that?
By bluffing him.
Okay.
And then, no, I'm not going to say it. But if I was playing against him, I'd probably knee him up the arse.
Yeah. That's okay. That's good.
And he knows that as well.
Cheers, Nigel.
Okay.